Fandoms Season 3, Episode 1.
Welcome to a terrifyingly fun edition of Fandoms, brought to you by the Nerd Initiative Network.
Good evening to all of the monsters and ghouls, and especially the nerds out there. Welcome to a very special edition of Fandoms You. Today is a very special lesson on one of my favorite holidays. Please come in, take a seat, and prepare to give yourself to me.
Thank you for that introduction, Professor Drake Eula. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, Dracula.
Okay. Well, thanks, and I'll take it from here. Hi, everyone. I'm Mickey, also known as Professor CWK here at Fandoms U, and we're talking Halloween. So Halloween, as we know it today, has a rich and diverse history with roots in various cultures and traditions, and it has evolved over the centuries into the modern holiday we know now. So if you'll turn your attention to the board, we'll get into it. Halloween's earliest origins can be traced back to the Celtic festival of Samhain, which was traditionally celebrated approximately around November 1st in what is now known as Ireland, United Kingdom, and northern France. Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of a long, harsh winter. There would be giant celebrations of bonfires, sacrifices, and dances in honor of the sun, hoping to entice it to stay just a little bit longer. Celts also believed that on the night before Samhain, the boundaries between the living world and the spirit world were at their thinnest. They believed this allowed druids to speak with the spirit world, and with those spirits still roaming the earth. But that also meant that this was a chance for the evil and mischievous spirits to wreak havoc. So Celts would smear their faces with ash or wear masks to keep the evil spirits at bay. But as we know, the Roman Empire would soon invade and conquer the Celtic territories. And they would introduce elements of their own festivals that take place during this time of the year, such as Fernalia, which is a day to honor the dead, and Pomona, which is a celebration to the goddess of fruit and trees, whose symbol was an apple. Over time, these traditions would evolve, along with Samhain, and merge more and more. But it was the 7th century that Christianity would come along and blanket all of these holidays with its own. All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on November 2nd. But some traditions die hard, and eventually the night before All Saints' Day would become known as All Hallows' Eve. Each of these Christian holidays incorporated some elements from the culture and traditions of Samhain. Bonfires were still lit, the harvest season was still celebrated, but new traditions began to pop up. One such tradition was Soling, where the poor people in town would go along, knocking on doors, asking for food, ale, and specifically soul cake in exchange for prayers. And over time, prayers would evolve into songs and jokes. Now fast forward to the Great American Migration.
On the boats and on the planes, they come into America.
European immigrants, particularly the Irish, brought their Halloween customs to America in the 19th century. And these traditions would continue to evolve, incorporating elements from various other immigrant groups and influences. The Irish folktale of Stingy Jack would bring us the jack-o'-lantern. Soling would become trick-or-treating, but it would be combined with the Scottish tradition of guising and the German tradition of besnickling, in which costumes became a huge part of the practice. But it wasn't until the early 1900s that Halloween started to take off nationwide. In Hiawatha, Kansas, a woman named Elizabeth Krebs would throw a Halloween party to prevent the local children from vandalizing her garden as they so often did on Halloween night. Unfortunately, it would prove fruitless, and the community would suffer vandalism just like it did every year. But the next year, 1914, she would expand this party to the whole town. They would have live music, costume parties, food, treats, decorations, and even a parade. And this time, it was a success. People of all ages enjoyed the festivities, and it drastically cut down on the destructive activities that would usually take place on Halloween night. News would spread, and surrounding towns and communities would adopt the same practice, having their own Halloween festivals, and it would continue to spread far beyond, making Elizabeth Krebs kind of like the mother of modern Halloween. Of course, it was only a matter of time before Halloween would become a lot more commercial in nature. Costume parties, trick-or-treating, all of the folklore and superstitions became popularized. And the candy and costume business would skyrocket, becoming billion-dollar industries. Today, Halloween is celebrated around the globe, but most widely so in the United States and Canada. It has evolved into a holiday characterized by costumes, haunted houses, parties, decorations, all with an emphasis on children and the tradition of trick-or-treating. But of course, adults also enjoy dressing up and participating just as well. So there you have it. Halloween has a complex history with deep roots in Celtic, Roman, Northern European, and Christian traditions. Over time, it has evolved into a modern holiday with unique practices and traditions, which makes it a festive and spooky celebration that can be enjoyed by people of all ages. We here at Nerd Initiative hope you have the most frightfully fun Halloween this season. And don't forget to celebrate in a safe and respectful manner, because people are just as diverse as the types of candy in your trick-or-treat bags. Enjoy yourselves, and don't forget to share those Halloween costume pics for a little bit of extra credit. Have a great one.
Yes, have a great one.
I swear he has way too much fun with those.
Well, you know, if you're given free license, go ham. That's what I say.
I'll be honest with you. At some point, if he keeps doing videos like that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna want to turn either this show or make another show where it's just like a variety thing where we all just make stupid videos and just have fun with it, because amazing. Yeah, you had lots of fun with it. We have lots of fun with it.
Yeah.
And by the way,
but it
let
was
me just say
great. Like,
good.
oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, I even loved that he brought up Stingy Jack, because it's my favorite story about the origin of the jack-o'-lantern.
Oh yeah, and there's even he could have gone so much farther, like the whole bobbing for apples thing. Like there was even a tradition where women would throw apple peels over their shoulder for the hopes of finding a suitor. The story of Bloody Mary, where you kind of like stand in front of a mirror and stuff. There was actually a tradition where women would put their backs to a mirror with a candle, and they would look over their shoulder and hope that the reflection of their future husband would be there. And then just like throwing the bouquet at a wedding, if you bobbed for apples, the first person to get an apple was the next person to get married. Like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just because there was no internet back then. Like there was a lot of this. They were pining for Match.com back in the.
I'm sorry, but the bobbing for apples thing, that sounds like it stemmed from one of their tests for being a witch, but that's neither here nor there.
I don't know. Like,
by the way, who are we?
Let's just say this. Going back to the Salem witch trials, how messed up were the tests? Where one of them was they would tie them and throw them into a lake, and if they sunk, they were okay, but they drowned. If they floated, they were witches and they were burned. I'm like, there was no happy in between.
There's a no win.
Yeah,
no win for that one.
Could you imagine if that kind of stuff? That all of the people that were accusing women of being witches, those were the early pioneer Karens.
I didn't think of them that way, but I guess it would apply.
The Salem witch trials is basically just an HOA out of control. I'm just saying.
I think it's a bit more than that. A lot of fake news involved there with the Salem witch trials. So
yeah.
Crazy zeitgeist.
Thou sod is overgrowingeth onto thy neighbor's lawn, and thou art a witch. That kind of thing. But yeah. So if you didn't notice, Michael has got a completely different makeover. He's not with us, but I've got this good-looking gentleman next to me. And Will
There's somebody else I don't see.
I'm pretty sure. But Will is offered to join in while Michael is on hiatus. And again, Will, thank you so much for doing this.
My
And it's
pleasure.
kind of just a weird conversation to have. And if you all haven't watched Netheads and you've seen the episodes where we're on, the only difference is Will could turn my face off at points, and in this show he can't do that.
Well, that's not true.
Um,
I can press a button that turns off my camera if I don't want to
it
be on
turns
the
off
screen.
your camera. But
Yeah,
here's the
exactly.
funny part: I can do this,
Yeah, see, there you go.
but you can't. So I feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's the way it should be because it's you're one of the hosts of the show. You should have my whole job. This is like the easiest for me because I don't really have to sit and think about anything. I didn't have to do any planning. I mostly just had to show up, throw out a few gems for you to pick up on. You set the show up for us. Boom. I'm super psyched for this.
Yeah,
I got
but
no
at the same
responsibility. The
time, this
camera's
is the
on.
most low
I'm
impact
done.
show you can do.
What's that?
This is the most low impact show you can do. Like honestly, Michael makes me work more, I think, than anybody else because he'll have like things planned out. He wants to be, to keep us contained because both Michael and I talk too much. And so if we have an agenda, we're good. Now that he's not here for this episode, it may go off the hinges very fast. But I did try to do some planning so that I wasn't just, talking for no apparent reason. But yeah, we are talking about Halloween. Halloween is just around the corner. It's Tuesday. Tuesday is I cannot believe I should say Halloween or Halloween is also considered Christmas season Eve, I guess. For many people. So
It is always within, or at least it has been. Things have changed. It used to be that my oldest daughter, around within 1 or 2 weekends of Halloween, would decorate the house for Christmas for us. But she is now 20 and has a boyfriend, so who knows what's going to happen this time? But yeah, typically it's always been within a couple weeks, or it's I mean, already you go into the stores and it's Christmas. Halloween has already been sent to the clearance aisle for 50% off.
I'm gonna confess to this. It's not my decision, it's my family's decision, but I'm okay with it. We are already about probably 30% decorated for Christmas.
Hey man, we've already talked about this over on Netheads. I have a concept of the general area you live. So it's not like you're gonna have a high demand for trick-or-treaters on the holiday.
Oh, no.
Even really on the day, really. Don't get me wrong, I love Halloween, but I'm like calling it a holiday it's just a reason to party.
Which
It's
is
an
funny
excuse to
because
get free sugar and party.
it's the second biggest holiday of the year.
Yeah, I would agree completely. And usually it's my favorite. Unfortunately, this year, for some reason, I'm just kind of like not in the mood. And I think it's because I didn't plan out a costume. So, which I'm actually doing something about, but I'm also torn about it because it's one of those things where I'm doing this and I'm like, you know what? This would make great content and I would really like to shoot it and I'd like to show something about it, but being within SAG solidarity, I'd love to tell you about the costume that I'm trying to 3D print, but unfortunately we can't talk about such things. So in the interim, I'll just say that in my house, I've actually made the suggestion maybe we should get some Halloween style decorations and have like a Halloween tree. So that way we're we're a quarter of the way there right after the Halloween is packed away. You know what I mean? Some orange lights, some black and gold and orange ribbon and some fancy things, make it look pretty and it's already out.
Yeah, or you could go the low impact route and get lights that can change color, like the RGBIC type lights. And basically you can have like the orangish hue. Like you can't see it right now, but I've got them up on my ceiling. And normally it's just like a constant like water flow type look, but people could just change those. I try. Last year it didn't happen because of COVID and because we ended up going to Disney World at the beginning of December. I try to decorate for Christmas, and there's one thing that always stays up, and there's these icicle lights that are on one of the trees, and it's because if I had them plugged in and going, I can change their color by my phone. And so there's like the Independence Day where it's red, white, and blue. You could do orange for Halloween and stuff, except for the fact that they're icicles. So they're not really, how many people
Practical
see
for the
orange
other
icicles?
holidays, yeah.
Yeah. So, but there are people that have them built into their houses, and that's really cool.
I actually, sitting in the garage, one of the many projects I always spin up, I think it was maybe a year ago, I was like frustrated with the concept of Christmas lights. And so I did get some external water resistant RGB lights. And after showing my wife what they look like, instead of running them along all of the eaves, she'll allow them because she doesn't want the LED light look going, but she'll allow me to mount them behind the eaves. So that way it would project the light on the house. And then I would do that. I would do lights for 4th of July. I'd do it for Arbor Day, for
Oh
God's sake.
yeah.
Give me some brown and green. Go trees kind of thing.
What's
I would
also
light
nice
them up
is
for
those
anything.
projection decorations that they have, not just the ones that go up in the house, but the ones that are like scenes that you can put up on your window if you have like a
Mhm,
white sheet.
mhm.
Those are really cool. Of course, you have the whole like zombies going at the window type thing, or
And if you set that up, they also have things for Christmas, like
exactly.
Santa walking by, or he's just sitting there by the fire in your house. Because why
Yeah.
wouldn't he be, in Virginia instead of the North Pole? Makes perfect sense.
Well, let's face it, if you follow, we're both friends with Santa Claus on TikTok, and I think he was in like Tijuana or something just recently. Um, but yeah, you never know. You never know. Santa Claus needs to take a vacation too. Um, let me just put this back real quick. Rich is going, as a large man, he'd like to keep Halloween and Thanksgiving strong for candy and food respectively. I absolutely agree. There is something about this season. I with pumpkin spice season coming around, when it
Coming
when the
around,
holiday.
bro. It's been
Well,
here.
I'm trying to leading into when it comes around to
Oh,
the
okay. I gotcha. I understand now.
what
Apologies.
what type of treat or what type of thing do you look forward to consuming at the beginning of, let's say, I guess usually like the end of August, the beginning of September? Like what things do you look forward to?
Candy corn. Candy corn.
Really?
Yes. I love candy corn. I've always liked it. And I understand it's a very black or white candy. That's it. It's just people either like it or they hate it. There's nobody that's middle of the road on it. But I'm like, a wax. I just like it. I'll just say that. As a matter of fact, I don't know if it will make it in time, but I have candy corn scented oil coming to put in the fog machine for Halloween.
So that's interesting. I didn't even know that you could get other scent. Oh well, I used to have a fog machine,
Mm-hmm.
and my background. You used to be a youth pastor, work in the church and stuff, and it's funny because I never found any like other scents except for pina colada, and it was always fun. So quick story that kind of goes away from Halloween, but it's kind of funny. Um, in college, I brought everything except for the kitchen sink. Like I was the guy who brought way too much stuff because you never knew what you were going to get into. I'm the kind of guy that was someone like, hey, we should do puppets for kids. I'm like, oh, I've got some of those, or I have stuff to build things. I was a crafty guy, and one of the things I brought was my pina colada scented fog juice and the fog machine. And a buddy of mine was like excited about it, and so we set it up in his room, and we filled the room with the pina colada scented fog, and of course it's kind of got like a purple hue to it. And we also found out that it wasn't super toxic, and so you could actually like suck it in and then blow it in people's faces. And so we're in a conservative Christian college, we're doing this in the dorm, we both like got a big like whiff of it, and we went to run out the room to go into somebody's face and blow it in their face, and one of the guy's dads was right there at the door, and we both like stopped and we just blew like purple smoke out our nose, and he's like, You know, if it wasn't for where we are, I would think something about this, but I'm just going to assume you're doing something stupid.
Oh man, it's ever so nice when somebody just wants to apply stupidity in place of potentially illegal drug use. That's nice. I like
Exactly.
that kind of spirit.
Yeah. For
Oh god,
me,
that is
it's
hilarious. I'm just the
good.
thing that I'm thinking about would also just be anybody seeing you guys coming out of the room, because it's just going to
It's
be
just a big
a
old
gigantic
haze.
release of purple smoke, and they're like, what are they doing in there?
And of course, like it was so full, like it's coming up under the door, and so it's like a little bit of a haze. And I'm surprisingly, we didn't set off the fire alarms because that was the only
Mhm.
thing I was concerned about, but it didn't. And we opened the window and we cleared it out. And at that point, we're like, yeah, we didn't realize what it looked like. We were so sheltered. But yeah, it was fun, and the dad got a kick out of it, and he ended up coming in and messing around with us a little bit because he was interested in what we were doing.
You
Um,
really got to think about your phrasing, though. I like that Mrs. Marvelite brings
yeah.
into the controversial or brings in the controversial topic. It seems of I have to admit, I look forward to pumpkin spice lattes. I've always thought they were just okay, but this season there's this iced it's a pumpkin cream chai latte or something. I get it with oat milk, and this thing tastes like it just tastes like autumn in a cup is what it tastes
Mm.
like. It just like you're like I have just walked into the hobby store and the cinnamon is starting to overpower for the Christmas decorations, but it's still fall. You know, there's leaves changing color and blowing around when you get this thing. You know, you're irritated that a little bit of rain fell, but you're still okay with it. That's how it tasted. And I so now I really anytime they go to Starbucks, I'm like, you know what? Can I have one of those? It's just wonderful. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I think it actually became kind of a mini trend or one of those hacks that you see, and people were getting those with oat milk like I already did, but then they would also substitute with I think a pump of brown sugar
Oh.
and a pump of something else. I can't remember what it was. And it that itself, they're like, "Oh, it tastes amazing." Of course it does. It's so darn sweet, but it tastes almost exactly like a pumpkin pie.
Yeah, so Starbucks when they did I used to be a barista
Oh,
and
that's
like
right,
yeah,
man. Hey.
I don't remember what exactly you're talking about because I think it was after because I was a barista from like 2008 to 2009 and drank way too much coffee, but Fontaine was the company that made the pumpkin spice and it was sweeter back then than it is now. And in order to get a similar taste to pumpkin spice what it used to be when they first started doing it, you have to add extra syrup. Which is how they get you because it's a lot of sugar.
Mhm.
But you know, Rich is mentioning apple cider and apple cider donuts. I've never had apple cider donuts, but I will say this:
I'm intrigued.
this is the season that I look forward to apple cider soda. And if you've ever gone to Aldi, and Aldi's almost everywhere now, around this season they have bottles. This year it's cans, which I don't think I like it. My wife Rebecca and I are kind of against the cans because they kind of feel like plastic. And can glass bottles are so much better when it comes to like carbonated beverages. And so they have um apple cider, sparkling apple cider sodas that you can get, which were really good. You have to be very careful because the same company that Aldi sells pumpkin apple cider. And then around November, Aldi will start selling sugar plum apple cider.
Well, you know, my favorite one is a hot Dickens cider.
Okay, we're gonna keep going.
You have
Mickey,
something against Dickens?
apple cider. I know it's a real thing. It's just the insinuation. We're gonna keep moving. The donuts, apples. I've never had them. I've never had apple cider donuts. I just
I've
haven't.
also never had a cronut, but not on topic.
Yeah. So, couple things when we were talking about, you know, this show beforehand, we mentioned some things. Of course, you can't talk about Halloween. You know, the idea of spooks and specters, and you know, the restless souls that that kind of haunt vacant places, and are the bane of the existence of communities, unless you want to talk about Spirit Halloween, because of course they like to haunt all of the vacant carcasses of businesses in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking a little bit about, you know with me, about their origin, and or like who they are, and we were talking about like the expectations of what we look forward to. But um you said that Spirit Halloween was part of Spencer's Gifts.
If I remember correctly, it was they had wanted to get into the selling of costumes and the like, because
Mhm.
Party City, they clear out aisles and set up a whole thing. They hire extra people that are just exclusively working with you, helping you get the costume that you're picking off this gigantic grid on the wall. So they really seemed to have a corner on convenient costumes, and Spencer wanted to get into that business, but then they just decided, instead of taking up square footage, if we occupy a vacant space and just spin up a temporary business, we can make real money here. And then I think that it also started that people would also kind of franchise it out, so then it became another money making operation for them. But and it all stemmed, I think, from them originally trying to carry costumes in some stores, and then they just had a surplus to go through. And I just can't believe that something that's a basic idea like that becomes not only a titan in the industry, but let's face it, is almost synonymous now with the holiday completely and
Mhm.
totally. Interestingly enough, however, there's not one within like 5 miles of my house for once. I haven't actually set foot in one this year.
That's
And
great.
usually my daughter wants to go to them because of all the animatronic stuff. She likes to see those things.
Yeah, that's really weird. Now, mind you, we don't have one within 5 miles of us, because nothing is within 5 miles of us. Everything
Right, right.
is too far, and whatever. But we have one just right down the road, 15 minutes from us, and it's funny because nothing else survives in that unit. Everything, it stays vacant all year round, except for when Spirit Halloween fills it up. And I should have known Spencer's had something to do with it, because if you think about it, the more risque stuff is usually toward the back of the store.
Mhm.
Um, they've got a lot of little niche, like novelty things that really aren't Halloween related.
Yeah, I've always wondered. I mean, it made perfect sense, because you would also go there and you would find certain unique things, like, not to talk about struck stuff, but, like one of the things that I've got in my yard, Home Depot related, but I'll get there, is this 13-foot Jack Skellington, right?
Mhm.
And so that the theme that he comes from, you would go there to Spirit Halloween, and they have pillows and shot glasses and bowls and mugs, and it's like, where did they get all this stuff? And then you realize, oh no, it's just it's a collection of things from the stores that are related to these things.
Mhm. And it's interesting though, because it, I'll be honest with you, if you think about it, anime is one of the harder things to find sometimes, like props and whatever else, unless you're ordering them and having them sent to you. I've noticed that for Spirit Halloween, they delve deeply into it. So like, I normally have it sitting behind me because I've got my Halloween stuff back here. But I have a Groot that has like the Naruto headband. I got that from Spirit Halloween. There's all of the masks from the different characters.
Mm.
They even kind of went into Demon Slayer this year, and they've got, like One Piece costumes and whatnot. And after Halloween, if you want like collecting that kind of stuff, people spend a lot of money before Halloween. What really they should be doing is they should be spending their money on the sale after Halloween for the next year, because
Hmm.
that's where the ticket is. Like, I'll be honest with you, my kid loves Fortnite, and we play together and everything else. We went to Walmart probably 3 or 4 days after Halloween. We got it's the gladiator version of Peely, the banana.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm Potassius Peels, I think is his name. Um, we got it for $1, the whole costume.
Oh man.
He's
And
got
see,
a
for a
fish
buck,
sticks
it's just like,
costume that was like 60 cents.
it's like, kid, you want to play here? Literally play Fortnite all year. Go ahead, knock yourself out. Anytime you want to be a Roman banana, be a Roman banana.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know, except
exactly
for
what he
school.
does.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's the cool thing. Like I have a I'm not because we're not talking about struck works and stuff, but I have a karate gi from a show that has to deal with karate, and it's just sitting in our room, and I paid less than $1 for it, and it's brand new.
Oh man, that is
And
nice.
it's amazing some of the stuff. I don't have it up because I didn't have a place to put on the wall because unfortunately my walls are covered. But like even Walmart had one of those control panels that when you flip the switch, it lit up and it looked like it was like the electricity was live and the wires were shaking. And I probably paid $3 for it.
Oh man,
So it's like
those
you
are
gotta look. I like we already when we go through Walmart, we literally make a list of the things that we want. That if it's still available on the once it's the holidays over, that's what we get because it's so expensive to buy it. And let's face it, in this economy, you don't need to pay full price for anything.
yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that though, because our neighborhood used to be really busy, right? On Halloween, we used to have lots of trick or treaters, but as the years have gone on, lots of kids have aged out of the homes in our area. But I think there's another reason why that's happening. It's because two houses down, my neighbor there used to turn his 3-car garage into just like a 3 quick hallway haunted house.
Oh, that's cool.
And that brought a lot of people. And I've always wanted to do something like that. Realistically, I know I never will. But if I ever actually fully commit to it, like where I've had a clean garage for a year and I know where I can move everything and
Mhm.
still make it work, that is what I would do. I would build up probably 3 years and I would pick up whatever I could that I thought would apply at Spirit Halloween on there or any place at the on November 1st. So that way, let's really stock this thing up so it's cool, but let's make it cheap.
Yeah.
Oh, my neighbor was a genius though too, because he also just took the chain off of his chainsaw, but would still fire it up and go and chase
Oh,
people.
that's cool.
But there's no blade in it, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's what they do. That's what a lot of them do it. Like the what is it like the farms and stuff.
Mhm.
There's a place nearest here. It's the biggest place in Northern Virginia. It's called Cox Farm, and they do Fields of Fear. And what's really cool about
But I
that
get
name
in
is
trouble for a cider joke. How dare you, sir?
yeah, no,
How
it's
dare you?
you know, get your money out of the gutter. And so we have this farm, and it's really cool because it has a whole gift shop, and you buy pumpkins and get the cider and all that kind of stuff at the front. But you go in, and they've got like 5 or 6 giant bonfires that they just keep going all night. They have a karaoke section in the back, but their biggest things are the haunted hay rides, which they do an extremely good job with. Like they did what was it, a zombie zoo one year, and they had the chain link fence that was kind of like had slack on it, and so the guy would run towards you and grab onto the fence, and the fence would kind of fall down toward the tractor. And then they do their Fields of Fear, which is their corn maze, which leads into like an entire building that kind of goes through as like a haunted house. And you enter into a bus, and the bus is like 40 feet long, and there's like an entire like spiraling bridge and everything in there. They do a really good job, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. And but they make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah, there is a I can't remember what the name of it, so I'm just gonna say something stupid like Deloso Farms, but it's something along those lines. It's between us and Manteca. And it is a massive compound of several different interests. One of them is a haunted house area, but then of course they have these massive hay slides for kids,
Mhm.
and they have last year they had a mini city, and it's like a massive piece of land that they've basically made into 4 different quadrants. So it's like you walk in at the shops, there's the tiny city, livestock, slides, haunted mansion, some rides, or haunted house, pardon me, I'm brand naming. And it's really cool, but like in my immediate area, there hasn't been anything. But now apparently, this weekend there is a group, bunch of people that are locals. They used to have a small one they would set up in their house. It's called the Condemned Compound, but that's going to be open up near us, and it's going to be like 10,000 square feet of scares. So I'm looking forward to that. It's been a long time since I've been to a good haunted house
Oh,
or
yeah.
haunted attraction.
I can
And
only
my kid's a
imagine.
thrill seeker. Thrill seeker, pardon me. Like a car wash near us would always do a haunted car wash. And like 2 out of 2 years she went.
That's the car wash near us is doing that this year, which we thought would be fun. Now, I imagine that
Yeah.
because of the strike, there's got to be a lot of people, like let's say makeup artists and everybody that's looking for work, that I could see that being an outlet for them, like doing like haunted houses and stuff. Like I could only imagine, like if you're in the California area, that they've got to be a lot better than what they are like on the East Coast, because as much as the East Coast has like old world building or older, like let's say like settlement stuff that they can deal with, or things that are a little bit older, because it wasn't until the gold rush people moved more toward the West Coast. But I wonder sometimes, because let me be honest with you, DC you would think would have a lot of great haunts, a lot of great places to go. A couple years ago, my wife and I did a Groupon where we went to the Museum of Crime and Punishment, and we had high expectations. I mean, they advertise the thing. It's there's the world's old the country's oldest electric chair. I'm thinking like really cool stuff. Their idea of doing a haunted house was like people jumping out of behind like displays, which was fine, wasn't scary. But then like rubber roaches and rubber rats, like, with like that sticky stuff. We went when my wife and I were married in 2007. We went to the Niagara Falls side or the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. And we went into this place, and we did a bunch of things. We went to a magician. We went to the Ripley's, believe it or not. It was like the middle of November, so like nothing was going on. We went to a musical dinner theater called O Canada A, and we were the youngest people in that thing. There was a retirement community that had come and was busing people in. That was the busiest we'd seen. We went to Planet Hollywood. There was nobody, but they had this haunted place called Screamers. And if you've been to the Canadian side of Niagara Falls, and you're watching this video, whether live or later on, shoot me a message if you've been to Screamers. It's literally a pitch black haunted house. You walk through in the dark. It's a sensory thing. So there's things hanging from the ceiling that's touching you. They've got speakers in places for dogs barking and stuff. But the biggest thing was you're following these little red dots everywhere you go, and all of the workers inside of the place have night vision goggles, which means they can see you, and you sign a waiver before you go in there that they can do anything they want within reason, not anything illegal. But we're walking through the thing that goes from light outside, which, mind you, the lobby going into this place, because it's a horror theme thing, it looked more like a BDSM type like gift shop, because like all of these like
Lovely.
chains, and it was supposed to meant to be scary. It just kind of looked creepy. And you walk through the thing to go into the room, and it's kind of like almost like a bead curtain, but it's more like paper and stuff. And the first thing that happens is they grab you while you're walking in. My wife would not look up. Her head was firmly tucked under my arm. We didn't even get 10 feet. She's shaking. Never done anything like this. Again, we're sheltered kids. And I stopped. And you remember that? You remember? I can't. It's a struck work. I can't talk about it now. There's this kind of the idea of like pending doom coming ahead. Like, let's bring it on. I said, honey, I need to prepare you. There's a coffin in front of us, and the light's pulsating. There's someone in the coffin. I can see there's movement. You can't see the face because it's covered up. I said, I'm pretty sure I'm seeing blood. And she's like, I can't do it. So you yelled the word Screamers, which is the name of the place. And they come and grab you by the hand, which also terrified her. She screamed when they would touch us to bring us out. And we came out, and they gave us a yellow card that says I chickened out, because it's a yellow card because you're yellow belly, you're chicken.
Nice.
And they gave you a card letting you know that you failed. and they sent you your way. It wasn't cheap either, but you know, it was an experience. But now she laughs through stuff like that.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good. You know, you learn from experiences. Um, Earlier I mentioned the ridiculous 13-foot Jack Skellington that I went into debt for.
Mhm.
Um, what are the decorations like on the East Coast side? Because you know the weather during this time of year can be very unpredictable. So, what level of commitment do people do? Because out here, you know, generally we just have sun and warmth. Some Halloweens I've been trick or treating in cargo shorts, so you never know which way it's going to go. But you're relatively certain your yard decorations are safe.
There, when we lived closer toward DC before we
Hmm.
moved out to the country, there was one. If you go into the city of Alexandria in Virginia, there is a road called Russell Road, and this is what I think of as peak in the DC area when it comes to Halloween. There's a lot of inflatables. There's a lot of, you know, scenes of like it looks like cemeteries with coffins and skeletons
Hmm.
coming out of the ground. There was one house on Russell Road that every year the guy spent the entire Halloween season adding something every moment of every day. One year there was an entire pirate ship with sails and cannons and mermaids coming out of the ground and like scenes, like it was like literally a giant boat in the middle of this
Hmm.
yard. And mind you, Russell Road is beautiful. There's lots of grass and stuff. It's more of the, if you would think, rural side, but the houses are pretty close to each other. So this guy's entire yard was full of Halloween and very impressive. I don't know if they worked in theatrical displays or whatever they did, but when they did it, it always looked extremely beautiful and creepy and fun. So you'll get that, but a lot of the stuff around here is the giant animatronics from Home Depot or the inflatables.
You
You
know,
know.
when did and when did we get to this point? Because I too, obviously, I'm a sucker for the mania. I mentioned the Jack Skellington. I
Mhm,
think we have a 10-foot skeleton as well that I didn't put up this year because I'm letting Jack have his moment. But
mhm.
like, when did we get here? And more importantly, you know, I love the way other people are trying to cash in on it, even though they don't quite have the clout, if you will. Because I don't know if you have noticed, but there was a period near the end of September, beginning of October, where people were discovering a product that was being sold in Target stores that I'm not sure if it was a 6-foot or a 10-foot or a 12-foot, but it's a yard decoration. And it looks, I honestly speaking, it literally looks like it's cobbled together from other things they had laying around. And they figured we can make a product out of this. If we put all the right pieces together, we can call this a Halloween decoration. And the reason why it kind of got this energy behind it though is because it's almost like a sassy yard decoration. It looks like a jack-o'-lantern, you know, wearing robes. I think you have a picture of it. You know,
Oh
it's
yeah.
trying to look spooky. But the thing that people were dying about it is because like one of the things he would say is like, I am not a jack-o'-lantern.
Hmm.
My name is Lewis. And Lewis went viral. And this thing was available at Target. I mean,
Oh,
like honestly, look, doesn't it look like it was cobbled together from pieces? It's like we have this from a witch's costume. We have these oversized gorilla paws, and we've got these jack-o'-lantern wall decorations. What can we do, guys? You know, I think if we stick a frame on it, boom.
oh yeah.
Uh,
And
and,
the funny
and
thing here's this is how funny it gets. Then there's this.
yeah, I know now. It's true. It's also become merch. Literally in Target, you can buy a t-shirt that says that with Lewis on it in Target. So, you know, hats off to them for realizing, oh, we've got something here. Let's move on it fast. Because most companies, they would not have a clue, and you'd start seeing that kind of stuff coming out near Thanksgiving. And
Yeah.
so hats off to Target. But the one thing I can say though is I haven't seen a single Lewis in any yard in my area.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So it's amazing that it can get this kind of mania, but still not seeing one.
Well, it's funny
And
because like if you,
and there are some of my neighbors don't skimp. They get like a new thing every year, and I can tell one of the new hot things must have been this creepy gargoyle because I've seen it pop
oh
up
yeah,
in two of the people's yards who normally get new stuff.
yeah, I had a friend who I remember when the projectors first came out, they had to go to Home Depot and they spent a good amount of money on buying like 4 projectors because they had 4 big windows in the front of their house. So they wanted
Mm.
each one to have something different, which was neat, but it's excessive. And then if you think about the fact that it's like a rear projection, so you have to have something up in front of it, and then that whole space in your house, you have to avoid walking. Like, let's face it, it's not like
Yeah.
you're Kevin McAllister trying to ward off some criminals, but you're trying to make the aesthetic look nice, which is great. But I always found we had a friend when I was growing up who the kids' birthdays were around like March and April, and they were very like Edgar Allan Poe focused, and like they loved like Halloween was the season. So what they did was the kids' birthdays were in the spring, but they celebrated their birthday parties around Halloween. And they made
Ah.
it like a big get together. And literally you would walk up to their house, and they didn't have a big front yard, but they would have graves that were dug up and bodies were climbing out of the graves, and it wasn't just the cheap like cobwebs on the bushes. They worked them out to make them look like real webs, and the spiders
Mhm.
would be there, and then you'd walk into the house and it was like something out of a glamour type magazine, but with the colors of like black and silver. And a coffin would be on the table, and spilling out of the coffin would be like the popcorn hands with the candy corn fingernails. And you'd go down the stairs and they'd have, the everything set up. And then of course they had like the fortune teller in the corner and stuff that all of us kids were terrified of, and we didn't want to go near them. But that's what I remember about Halloween as a kid, like going to those things. I never went trick or treating, but we went to Halloween parties like crazy.
Oh man, I trick or treating was my as most kids would say. I mean, but it really was. It was my jam, and I was one of the ones that liked it and which is probably why I do the ridiculous stuff I do, because I have a fog chiller. I usually have good decorations, and when you mention the projections, I have a special housing made out of tombstones that kind of looks like a small crypt, and that houses a projector where I use the Atmos FX pumpkins to project faces on animated faces onto 3 pumpkins, and they talk and do stuff all night. So, I kind of go all out. I want it to be a cool house. And there were some years I would do scares, some years I wouldn't. But I always wanted to be one of those cool houses that was into Halloween. Because the ones that as a kid I went to, that was the exciting part. I don't know to get what's going on. Are you brave enough to go up there? And I respect the adults wanting to say, I'm gonna get my money's worth out of it. Okay. You gotta earn this candy. I'm not
Mhm.
just I'm spending $30 for entertainment. So you gotta come up here, kind of thing. So, I loved trick-or-treating, but since you never did,
And
that kind
here's
of
the thing.
blows one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because
No, no.
I was thinking about it on my way home right before this. I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? What was the greatest trick-or-treating experience I ever had? And then conversely, when was my last trick-or-treating experience? And I realized they were actually both the same night. I think the last year I went trick-or-treating, I was, I believe, 12. And I felt at that time that was pushing it, because as you can imagine, as a 6'1" guy, by the time I was 12, I was already like stretching out to the point of questionability if I'm trick-or-treating. And that particular night, I was with friends, and it was a foggy Halloween night. And I kid you not, we trick-or-treated at least until 9 o'clock, and then wandered the streets until 10 before we went back home. And it was an amazing night, and I'll never forget it, and I really miss it. And I thought I'd be living it vicariously through my children, but my daughter, who is now 9, like, she may just be going to a friend's house now to go trick-or-treating. I don't even know if I'll be accompanying her. I may just be a copyrighted character I can't talk about, giving out candy at the door in a very impressive, almost, but not quite movie quality rendition of a costume. We
Well,
shall see. Which,
So
by the way, man, I can't believe I'm pulling it off, but it looks like it is going to happen in time.
so it's not so here the funny thing is I never longed. I never had this. First of all, you gotta remember something. I lived in an apartment building
Mhm.
as a kid. So there was no neighborhood to
Right.
go like literally where I lived in my neighborhood, right down the street from my house, like a block from my house, was an area where there was a community leader who was giving out watermelons and would help people out, and got busted because he was selling controlled substances in the watermelons. And so there
Oh,
was a lot of stuff that happened like near my house that I didn't go walking around or go
yeah.
visiting things. I stayed in. I was of a pale complexion and I stayed in. Or if it was during the summer, I went to the pool that was on the apartment building because my mom ran the building. So
Mhm.
I had no problem staying in. My mom, when she grew up, she wanted to go trick or treating one year and she wasn't allowed. And so she snuck out and she went. Now, while she was out, there was a young girl that fit her description that was unalived
Oof.
during the trick or treating, and my family was convinced it was her. And so she walks in after sneaking out to trick or treat, and they all discover. She said that she immediately got a hug, and then she got whipped from them because and so the fear of that I think happened. Plus, and speaking of which, when we talk about trick or treating, this is the story that I've always known. You hear about people going and you need to get your candy checked out, make sure there's no razor blades and stuff. It's real, except for it didn't happen the way that everyone thought it did. The idea of having spiked candy actually took place back in 1974, and it was with the case of Timothy O'Brien. And it wasn't a stranger who did it; it was the father.
Oh my
The
gosh.
father was in financial trouble. He had taken insurance policies out on all of his children, and he laced the candy with cyanide. Unfortunately, Timothy ate it and was unalived, but his siblings did not eat it, and then thankfully they were saved. And so when you think of like spiked candy, it was because of that story back then. And of course, we know we live in a day and time where you have to be careful. And thankfully, a lot of hospitals and places will open up and they'll offer to do x-rays for candy.
Man, I have it all my years, nobody's ever had to inspect my candy, and I had never come across a thing. And I was a kid in the 80s, man. I'm Gen X. We were just left loose to run. But then again, people, I guess, either weren't that malicious in my area, or they were very careful with their drugs. They weren't going to give them away free on Halloween night to strangers, which makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, like I knew growing up in my area.
No, never mind, Tony. I want you to lie to me instead.
No, okay, thank you. Thank you for the idioms and repetitious statements. Um,
Still gonna
I
kill me after
I
this.
don't honestly think I said it again. That I would have trusted the people that were around when I was a kid for the candy that they gave. We have weird people. Like
I was in the suburbs, man, and I'm talking about the distant suburbs. At the time we moved into the suburbs, that where we did, it was farm country that had been converted, or just flat out stuff that during the summer would be considered dry as hell. So nobody wanted to go there. Everybody that was there was generally friendly and safe. I mean, when I was a kid, like pre 10 years old, I remember we would leave the house during the summer to go play. We would come back for lunch, and then we would go out again, and we had to be home when the streetlights came on. So like that's like a full work day. That's 8 hours that I would practically vanish from my parents' supervision. Somehow I'm an adult now. I don't know how it all works. So, I understand we have very different experiences. And I'm sorry to hear that you kind of didn't get to know that feeling, but at least at
Oh,
least in some level you get to live it through your kid, right?
well, yeah. Well, listen, when I was a kid, we decorated the house. We would always do fun stuff. We'd go places. I didn't have to figure out what candy everybody was giving. My mom would go and take and get me the candy I wanted. We would usually rent movies and we would watch, movies, and
Ah.
then we would turn off the lights in the house and light up candles and carve the pumpkin. And we lived in Arlington. We lived across from a golf course. And so my mom would always find some way to tell me like a scary story that was relatable to us. And I remember she one year she talked about how about the monsters that lived in the golf course, and I would never be able to do the story justice the way she did. But basically, it was the idea that these monsters would they would come out of Halloween and eat kids, and um, they were looking for kids with windows open so that they could snatch them from their homes and take them back to the ponds and whatever. And then right after she told the story and I was riveted as a kid, she's like, okay, now go take the jack-o'-lantern out to the porch or the balcony. And I'd look at her like, are you serious? You just told me about kids getting snatched out of their windows and you want me to go in the balcony. And she would do that on purpose. And great mom. I appreciate those things. I think it's why I like tormenting my kid now. But I don't miss those things. My childhood was Halloween parties, and I wore costumes all the time. I'm a big nerd, so I enjoyed. Before I knew it was cosplay, I enjoyed cosplay,
Mhm.
and just trying to be different characters. So, Halloween was just an extension of that, and it was an opportunity to watch old Peanuts cartoons and stuff like that. That's my recollection of Halloween is all of the things that would be on television around the time and all of that stuff. And of course the old, you know, paper skeletons with the little like little with the metal joints that
Yeah,
they
the
would just
rivet
yeah, the
for
rivets
joint, that
and
little pivoting rivet, and
yeah.
oh yeah, I mean, I was just about to say that was that was the Halloween decoration when I was a kid, is the paper skeleton you put on something, the witch's face screaming, a
Mhm.
jack-o'-lantern. Like, I wonder if anyone is printing those up as retro or if they've just still been done.
We have
Mhm.
a couple of them in our garage. The garage is a mess right now to be able to find it. One of these days it's going to be up. I mean, I have like some stuff that's kind of similar to it, but nothing like that. There's just something nostalgic about having those old decorations still.
Mhm.
Of
Yeah,
course, also the
definitely.
McDonald's pails, have become a popular thing too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, I know. My kid at dance, she has a big break between some dance classes and she's like, "Could you bring me McDonald's?" She's never asked before and she's a picky eater, so of course I jump on it. And she has a very explicit list of what she wants. She said I can get it as a Happy Meal if there is a Halloween Squishmallow toy that she may have heard about. And I go there and I'm like, "What's the toy?" And she's like, "It's the bucket." Literally, McDonald's is like, "The bucket is the toy. The thing we're gonna stick the food in is the toy."
Yeah,
No,
which
it's
is a
not,
suffocation
guys.
hazard.
That's a separate thing. But anyway, but I
Yeah.
digress.
Yeah, but
Um,
I it's funny. I have one of the buckets like on the other side of my monitor right now. But speaking of some Halloween stuff, and oh, hold on, Rich. I dress up every year and love handing out candy. Now that I'm older, my son is yeah. That
makes perfect
I
sense.
I think I would be more excited if I lived in a community where kids would trick or treat for me to give the candy out than the idea of going out and getting stuff because I think then I would decorate the outside and go. We have an acre and a half of land. I could probably easily build like a haunted maze
Yeah,
on my
man.
front yard, but who has the energy to do that right now? Like,
I mean, a lot of people, like I said, there's somebody they used to do their house and now they're renting a big space. And they're only doing it for 4 days, if you think about it, because it's
yeah,
opening up on Saturday. Or crap, did it open today? Pardon my language.
probably
One or
open up
the
today.
other. No, it did open today, the 27th. So they're doing it today through Halloween. So they get 5 days out of it. If I can't math. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yep. 5 days. Well, actually, I'm sure they're not going to be doing it on Halloween unless you got no. I guess that would be a fun thing to do on Halloween if you got nothing better to do. Like if you don't have
Yeah.
kids or anything like that, and you're like, I don't want to be answering the door all night.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like people don't know, if you live in a community where they're doing trick or treating, make sure you turn your porch light off and you, you shut the lights off. They need to know that you're not going to, do anything.
There's
Um,
something else too, and I'm remembering it now, which is I can't remember if it's a special sign or a light you're supposed to put out, but it's so that way you could let people know not only are you doing trick or treating, but also you're prepared to be respectful for those that may have sensory input issues. So that way
oh,
it's just going to be a very calm environment for them to come and trick or treat at.
let's see here.
If I'm not mistaken. I probably am though. Or I'm remembering some pre-COVID thing that happened because let's face it, it's still a very dividing line, the life before and the life after. For us, trick-or-treating never really kind of recovered in our neighborhood after that. But I do remember one of the things that was creative is our downtown had offered a trick or treat. And what they were doing was you would drive through it. So they set up a lot of those 10 by 10 stations to be scary displays. And then
Mhm.
people would use a piece of rain gutter that they had trimmed to slide the candy down into your kid.
Well, there's also like a lot of places you can do trunk or treat.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then
Our local mall does that.
there are some malls that you go to that like I think it's normally the Friday evening or Saturday evening before Halloween. You can go around to the different businesses and they have somebody outside of each of the stores, willing to give kids candy so they can just kind of walk around the mall and get candy, hoping that the kids will walk in and want to buy something.
Mhm.
Because they have all the money. And one of the things I want to talk about, because we're already into an hour of talking, which makes
Oops.
perfect sense.
Sorry.
Is the idea of going trick-or-treating and wearing costumes, and of course Will has referenced the idea of dressing up as something struck but not talking about it. And of course, as we're hoping that a deal will be made this week, but there are things to do to stand in solidarity. But this also brought up a little bit of controversy with SAG after this holiday season, and that is the holiday guide, the FAQ for dressing up for Halloween. And a lot of people get upset. It's even everybody's crush, even guys, Ryan Reynolds making a comment about it. And I think people went a little bit too far with this, and I think this is where the mentality kind of leans toward the AMPTP when people criticize stuff like this. But SAG is trying to make a statement. They're trying to make people aware that, especially if you're part of the union, like there are things that you do to be supportive of what they're doing to not promote things. And of course, I think their goal was not to get to Halloween for this, but they brought this out, and the idea of wearing generalized characters, generic things, don't dress as that character from a specific property. There are things that you can do. Like, listen, if you want to be Spider-Man, you're the comic book Spider-Man, I guess, is kind of what how you'd lean into it. But then ghosts, zombies, spiders. There are lots of things. I mean, I want to reference a movie because there's lots of generic. If you ever watch like old movies where they have Halloween in the movie, they've got generic costumes on because they're trying to avoid having to pay licensing fees for those
Exactly.
things.
And right now, this could have been the year, everybody. This is the year you could go ahead and be Winnie the Pooh all you want, because he is a what is the term? He's fair use now.
Oh yeah, he's fair use now. Yeah. As we've seen
So
with some iterations of him.
yeah.
But there's lots of things. I mean, you could mind you, it would be a reference to a movie, but you put a shower curtain around you and
Yeah.
walk around. There are things
look, here's the thing. And I'm sorry to say this, all right? Because believe me,
you're not
I'm not thrilled about this, because there's a lot of amazing stuff going on right now. Like shows I'm watching where there's really incredible things going on, but we got to stand in solidarity and not talk about them. But these things are really amazing, and we don't get to say anything. But Halloween is Halloween, man. A kid is going to love Spider-Man, and they're going to want to dress as Spider-Man. And it doesn't matter where it's from, even though they're more than likely going to want to dress as the latest iteration that may be available in media.
And SAG
that's
went back
the
and
way it's going to
clarified
be.
they're not talking about kids. Like,
Well,
they're
yeah, but
like it's.
I'm a kid at heart. Okay.
Come on, man.
I want to
Listen,
be I want to be
listen.
vengeance. I want to be the knight. Okay, come on.
Listen, there are generic ways to talk about, certain types of characters and things
I'm
that
with you.
doesn't involve, directly talking about a specific struck property.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
You got to be creative is what we're saying.
Exactly.
But like that's the thing with what I'm doing, like technically speaking, I would not be very strike friendly because what I'm doing is exactly what they're.
It's a specific iteration of a character.
Yeah, it's very specific, and there is no getting away from it. And so that's why it's like if you think about it, as a piece of content, it's an amazing experiment. At with only 7 days, I've said, can I create a not necessarily movie quality costume, but a very decent, higher than you expect one for an economical approach. So in other words, if you go out and were to get this, it would be around $300, I think, if you get one of the really high quality ones. Can I do something similar with a 3D printer? But I don't want to look like well, no, you can't even. That big green guy with bolts, that's one of that studio. So it's like, what would I do?
But it's an iteration of a literary character. Like,
true.
Yeah. So I mean, that's things like, again, you run a fine line, especially when it comes to comic book characters and things that are comic book derived, because of course, when they translate them to film, those are going to be the most visible and the most available when it comes to going to a place and buy.
Well,
my kid this year,
yeah,
he's big into watching streamers. Like he loves something called Lanky Box, and that's where all of my money goes when it comes to buying like these plushies and these action figures and mystery boxes. I don't know what it is about streamer. We need to make a mystery box that just has a whole bunch of disappointing stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
People buy it.
Yeah, but be upfront and just say, what is this? This is the Nerd Initiative box of disappointment. It's a mystery box.
Yeah, it's the box.
But we 100% guarantee it contains your disappointment.
Yes,
I would.
And it's curated to disappoint you.
Yeah,
it would probably sell well.
If somebody tried to sell me that, I'd be like, challenge accepted.
Exactly.
Put that on the TikTok shop.
Yeah, like let me prove to you I can disappoint you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's other thing, and it was based off of a video. And I don't know what it is about kids with streamers. Like, I want to watch a video and one and done, and I'm good. I don't want to watch it anymore. These kids watch these videos over and over again. And so my son wanted to be something called a rainbow ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally us. We went to the fabric store and we got like 2 yards of pink fabric because he wanted his ghost to have, a pink sheet, which is fine. And then we had to cut holes in the head and glue plastic Solo cups to them for the eyes.
Oh my gosh.
And I cut a hole in the plastic cup so he can see through them, burn the crap out of my fingers putting this thing together for him. And then there's a song about donuts that he loves. And so we wanted donuts on his ghost. And so the stinking ghost has donut ears. And he is absolutely 100% completely happy. And he's like, this is my Halloween costume. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. And I look at him and I'm thinking, when I was a kid, I was never satisfied. Like I wanted official things. Not this kid. He is he is a cosplayer to be in the future. And hopefully he just keeps that spirit about him. But
that's part of the reason why I really want to and probably should document this experience anyway. Not only because, I could use it for next year, but I also have a funny feeling. This is one of those things where this stuff would be the example of this is how it started. And 2 years, me walking around in like full body armor this is how it's going. Or it's like, this is the moment he realized he messed up.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The way the algorithm works against you on TikTok, it wouldn't get any views. But here's how you make it get views. Scrap what you're doing, and you need to make a human size costume of either Vector or Emo.
Hmm. Wow, I could do that. That'd be
It would blow
terrible,
up.
though. That would be really horrible.
Yeah.
I think that would fully drain my soul because I already have to on a daily basis deal with the fact that nobody likes me. I like little animatronic pieces of plastic, two of which can't even respond because their servers are down. That's a whole other story you can hear about on NetHeads.
Yeah,
But
where'd your
actually,
paddock go? You don't have your paddock fence anymore.
the paddock fence had to go because the emos were hurting themselves on it. These are the adult conversations I actually have now too. Oh, it's so embarrassing. What am I doing with my life? But anyway, I got to tell you too that if you got a hint of what I was doing, the other thing I picked up that I've always wanted to play with, this is really just me getting into dangerous territory. But you know those white mesh eyes that are also LEDs?
Yeah.
So they light up, but you can still see through them.
Yeah.
I've got them and I'm putting them in there.
And do they is there anything to protect your eyes when you're wearing them, or are you going to go blind?
No. The way the light hits, you still see through it.
So I'm going to say this. I actually you inspired me to get a direct drive extruder for the 3D printer, and maybe we'll have to talk about 3D printing on a future fandom show. But I did finally 3D print something that was successful, which I'm excited. It makes me want to get back into doing more as I figure out how to fix the rest of the 3D printer. But I made myself a Venom skull.
Oh wow, that's sweet.
Yeah,
Good, really good quality too. It's amazing what happens when you make subtle changes, right? I had done some maintenance on mine, and I did not realize I had bent a piece of the PTFE tubing that went into the hot end, and so I just replaced it, and then I cleared out a slight clog and replaced the nozzle, and that is why this costume thing is even working, because it is just going insane right now. As a matter of fact, that clog and everything else happened right after I did the first version of the helmet until I realized it was too small. So then it went offline for a day and I had to switch to the other one, which is okay. Needed the better build plate. I will have a cool Halloween cool Halloween decoration to be spoken about at a later time. But Not Struck Work, our comic, and DC had a particular run, which was it was the darkest. Yeah, I think it was called Darkest Night, where basically it was the rise of the Black Lanterns trying to
Blackest Night.
Blackest Night. Thank you. And so one of the things I will have that is because I have a cowl of a particular character. I'm going to thank you, sir. I'm going to 3D print out just a skull and do some work on it. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be a really big one because the helmet was made to fit my head. And then I will have an example of like the Blackest Night version of this character, or at least their head, able to sit on my desk.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
because that's when you get into 3D printing, people, you also find ways to do stuff with the stuff that you couldn't do something with, if that makes sense. I also have from the Blackest Night story, I have all of the collectible rings, and I got those in real time. But I have all of the different lantern rings still in plastic. From that
I haven't finished reading the storyline. I had with the exception of like Batman, Superman comics, and my Death of Superman comic from like '92. I didn't have a whole lot of Superman, like any DC comics for a while. And we were at a yard sale, and this guy had not only the entire Blackest Night like series in like hardback, but then I've got the majority of the New 52 stuff. So Justice League, Flash, Teen Titans, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. I've got like alternate origins for Superman. Secret origins for Superman, and then I've got a whole bunch of like the Earth One stuff, and so I'm excited to like delve into the Blackest Night story. I figured since I haven't really gone into it too deeply, I want to like try to binge as much as I can around Halloween to just kind of set the mood.
Yeah, there you go, man. That is and there's a cool thing you can enjoy if you're shut in and you're able to get something on like a digital subscription to do with the night. Little themed because at least it's comic books. Actually, you know, that was the thing I was thinking about coming into this, and that's how we kind of came to the Halloween theme. But one of the things I realized we could kind of talk about, if you wanted to talk about a piece of work, because animation is free from kind of embargo there, and we're not going to talk about it because I didn't prep Tony for it, but since it's not kind of struck work, I just got to say, if you're a fan of a particular space, the Final Frontier kind of program, then that thing, Lower Decks, the animated version, is crushing it on the app that it's hosted at, that I won't say because I don't want to bring up the name. So, but I'll just say Lower Decks is amazing, and it is so Easter egg filled. The only thing I fear is I think this is its 4th season. I'm fearing they're not going to get another one because it seems like they are just putting it all out there. And they found a way to connect this show to like several of the iterations for the time that they're around. If you remember syndicated television around this program in its second go around, there was a lot of stuff, and they tie all these elements in. Really great. That's all I'll say because you weren't
one
prepared.
of the first Nerd Initiative articles on our website, apart from like a whole bunch of like, you know, comic booky movie type stuff, was I think there was a review of Lower Decks. So
Yeah.
you know, I completely get it. We're going way over time.
Okay, well, let's
And
tighten it up then. Let's wrap it up. Let's hit all the
so-
important
so
stuff.
let's
I'll be
go ahead.
quiet, Tony.
Let's do the rundown. First of all, just keep the lights on. We have to talk about this because I am contractually obligated to, and that is the Nerd Initiative merch store. Please go check those things out. Though it may not be spooky season, we don't have anything Halloween themed. Just know that anything you get there will be a treat. You also want to make sure you follow us. Reach out to the contact us on that QR code here. This will actually take you to our contact form. And if you'd like to know more about the things that Nerd Initiative is doing, you're going to want to go there because we do a nerd newsletter every month. Along with that, you want to make also sure that you check out New Comic Book Day every week. The Nerd Initiative Bullpen does a great job of breaking down the new comics and the comics that are and the stories that are happening. There's even a fantastic article and an interview that we did in New York Comic Con with Jacques with Distillery on the new comic book series Gone, which is phenomenal. Mind you, even the art by itself is gorgeous. And I actually have the first issue here. We got it beforehand. It's actually signed by Jacques. So, I mean, just first of all, I love the fact that it's not the conventional comic book size, and these images are just beautiful. And the freedom that they're giving these guys, along with the investment or a portion of the stake of the company, has been awesome. And so there's the interview with that on the Nerd Initiative YouTube channel, as well as an article done by ODPH Ken. And then just a couple things. If you like comic booky stuff and you like shoes, like the Spidey Venoms that we have here, you're also going to check out our Batman Joker shoes, the Bat Kicks. Amazing work by Shoemaker. One shoe is Joker, one shoe is Batman. And in fact, just because we can give you a little bit of a hint or a little bit of a tease to it in the form of this video right here.
Nerdy Kick's new Batman and Joker inspired shoe that's so detailed you'll relive all your childhood memories. Because on one side you have the Bat, inspired by old school comics and the classic gray, black, and yellow fused with this eye-catching bat design. But blessing your other foot are the Jokers, riddled with the ha-has. With their bold and vibrant shades of green, purple, and red, it instantly captures the essence of Joker's personality. You do not want to miss the opportunity to cop yours, so do so in the link in bio.
Just love those shoes, and Yassine does a great job of it. Then finally, also want to tell you, turn a page every Tuesday, going through the comics that we know that you'll love. Great explanations. There's also a great interview with Alan Dunford that the team did just this last week. And so be sure to check that out. And on top of that, if you liked those shoes that I was showing earlier, there's the Spidey Venoms right there. And then we don't have a QR code for it this time, but we're going to make sure we fix that in the future. Wednesday nights, we have the Nerd Initiative Wrestling Night Live show following one of the I think it's AEW. Be sure to reach out, check that out, and watch those things. And if you're following this on, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you're thinking, you know what, YouTube, that's cool, it's great, or whatever, just know this video is also being embedded on our homepage as we speak right now. So if you go to nerdinitiative.com, you can watch these things, and you'll also see a cool playlist of all of the Fandoms University episodes or segments that Mickey has done since he started doing them. And they are fantastic. They're great breakdowns about different things within the nerdom. And if you have a suggestion about a future episode, you want to give us an idea of what to talk about, you think, hey guys, you're missing this fandom, and maybe it's something we don't know, we love to bring people on and talk about the things that they love. Again, just go to that contact page and make sure you reach out to us, and we will do our best to make shows of things that you love. Because if it's not a part of your, if it's a fandom, and if it's not something we know, we'll bring people on to talk about those things, because we want to be able to do a show for every point of view, and we would love to hear yours. So feel free to reach out to us, fill out that contact page, follow the newsletter, leave us a message. We'd love to have you at some time. I think that's it. That was a mouthful. That was absolutely a mouthful.
Yeah, and let's make sure we get.
Ken just updated it. Wrestling Night Live is moving to Thursdays at 8 p.m. starting on November 2nd. So next week, Thursday night, Wrestling Night Live.
And to help give us a boost across many other algorithms, Taylor Swift, 1989, Taylor's version. You're welcome.
Oh, this is our Eras tour. And if you don't know already, with me has been Will Wilkins. Will Wilkins is the host of the show Netheads, part of the Smodcast network. And if they just did a show on Wednesday night, I think did it post yesterday or?
Yeah. Well, the podcast, the show itself was up live, but the podcast version did drop late Thursday, early Friday.
Okay, so be sure to check that out. I know I've enjoyed the show. I've enjoyed being on the show. I was going to be on the show, but then I got stiffed by one of the other actual hosts.
You got bumped. Sorry, unfortunately, Mr. Marvelite, we ran out of time.
One of these days, I need to be able to be on an episode with Trent, because I need to meet this guy, because we found out that Will has a type, and it's bearded guys with. I should wear a pair of glasses. If I did that, I probably would have been able to be on the show. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been it. It's like, well, but Trent has glasses.
Yeah.
Actually, it was really weird the last show too, and you'll probably appreciate this, but for the first time since like 2016, his beard was trimmed, so it wasn't he went from like Duck Dynasty instead to like Bob Vila from This Old House, if you want to gauge it on beards, you know. So I was like, wow, look at him. At which point I'm instantly like, you're dating somebody, aren't you? And he is. So there
nice.
You go. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah. See, nerds can get ladies.
Hey, I know it.
Yes.
I think wasn't it the last show we were on together? No, wasn't the last show we were on together? Like somebody like in the comments made a statement about like insinuating that we were all single.
Yeah, probably. It's like, no, man, we're married.
And I almost responded, but I decided not to. And like we just deleted the comment. But I'm sitting there going, wow. Like we both got kids, and then Michael had one on the way, and so yeah. Well, with that said, we have gone way over. Will, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a stand-in for Michael as he's on hiatus, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir. Literally anytime.
Absolutely.